Hey everyone, I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, muchas gracias to everyone for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, as the love and support everyone shares and sends my way. From the heart, muchísimas gracias. Also, do please like, share, subscribe, and hype to this video to help support the message. Thank you. Well, everyone, on this one, I want to take you to an incident that happened out here in Mexico, right? More so with the homie that became a Pili that I have mentioned to you guys before that would end up getting hit because of the hyena that used to be under evil, right? And anyways, this is Pomona's Mike's pipeline they were building. Everything they were doing, it was a direct line for Pomona Mike, right? They didn't really they didn't really have nothing to do with us besides support. We supported each other, and for some reason, Pomona Mike and Daryl, from Onterio, they had real good communication. More so, they supported each other a lot. And since Daryl was definitely one of the top individuals, right? At least when you come towards the Pacific side of Mexico, right? But anyways, on this one, I want to speak about Carlos or Carlitos, right? From Pomona Sur Locos or something like that. Excuse me if I get it wrong. But anyways, Homeboy had not been very long since he had gotten out. He had done some fed time, and not exactly sure which Billy sent him out this way, but he would be a little smarter though. He would get out, go home, see his family a little bit, and then come report, right? Which I wasn't that smart, to be sincere. But the point is, he would end up coming down to report. And of course, he checked with the homie C, because he was answering to Pomona Mike. And they were doing their thing. Mostly, like I said before, they were working the four letter singles, right? They were working with them, with a few individuals. And mostly where they were at, they were in Mascota, um, Puerto Vallarta, all that area, right? Even sometimes they would be out towards San Pancho, next to Vallarta. Well, anyways, that was the little area where they would wiggle at, right? Of course, it's not there no more, but that's where it was at. And one time around 2022, if I'm not mistaken, 2022, somewhere there, we were nearby, there was an individual. This individual was from a small town next to a Mecca. Dude, please excuse. Can't think of the name right now, but it's right next to a Mecca, right? And anyways, right there in Jalisco. So basically, they asked Daryl to send someone or a couple camaradas to go over there and support them because someone would be traveling, and the times where he was more vulnerable was at the airport, right? So we were meant to hit him there in Guadalajara's airport. You know, me personally, I didn't know the airport. I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know how big it was. You know, but when we get there, we get with the homie from Pomona, Olive, and this homie's there, and a couple other camaradas, right, from there. And for our end, it was three of us. And when we went out, of course, we mapped the airport. And I had gotten so used to it at this point that the missions out here were meant for us to get busted in. Straight up, it seemed everywhere we get sent, we get busted. We go get our butt whooped, sit down, and just wait for them to pull the strings to get us out, right? Because when I seen the airport, I was like, nah, this ain't, you know, there's just no way. We mapped 2 blocks around and we are gonna get caught. There was no point, but like I said, I had already put it in my head that was part of the program, right? Whenever we got sent somewhere. So I didn't say nothing. Neither did the camaradas. Would just say C from Olive, right? And the vato that did say something though was Carlito. He's definitely said, Chalice, I ain't doing this. This is a suicide mission. We're gonna get caught. And I don't know, like I said, their doings were directly with the 4 letters to Mike, right? And someone knew on our angle was D, but he definitely kept it in by to himself. We're just soldiers. And anyways, he caused this. Not gonna say drama, right? I don't want to minimize the camarada, but it was just he was right. You know, we didn't know how Jalisco was gonna take it because there had been a couple incidents, and we're in their capital. You know, and not to say this individual right here, he worked for the 4 letters. The reason why C and Mike's crew and them had to go get him and was like somebody up there in power, the 4 letters was backdooring them. But you guys know how that works. You have to pull it off because at the end of the day, he's going to pull out and put all the blame on you, and we're going to be in their jail. So we might as well just call it a wrap. But anyways, this homie definitely he sat down. He said he wasn't going to do it, and we would have to wait, right? At the end of the day, there was no point of us going through it. And then we had some individuals were hearing, and we pulled out. We'll just say it like that. We pulled out, because of the camarada, and most of all, we all thought the same thing. We just didn't say it to each other, right? It was definitely a suicide mission. This wasn't like the other times where we go in as pointers, nobody knows us, and we're gonna hit one of their main workers. For somebody that the way Mexico works is gonna deny everything at the end of the day and let us drown alone. But again, If that's what we had to do, we're meant to fall in line for whatever mission we're meant to pull, right? Anyways, we went back. Needless to say, we would go back, sit down right there where they had their spot in Guadalajara. And while we're there, we're just waiting on answers from mainly the Billy, Mike, right? See what he wants us to do. And us from D, either we catch up with the homies towards Veracruz or what are we're gonna end up doing, right? And the opportunity presented themselves. The rancho next to Ameca was called El Camichin or something like that. Anyways, it opened up where that individual that was betraying the four letters per se basically was going to give us an open line right there in Camichin to go in and deal with the situation. But keep in mind, this was a couple weeks afterwards, right? And not the people from Sinaloa, or it was the one that had a problem with the time lapse, But we would end up going to Camichin, and it was a ranch, right? Real easy. We went, took care of business, and then went uphill. We went up in the mountains, figured out the route. We went down, but before we went out and did that, we got that call, from that old man. They had talked to his brother, and we're supposed to take Carlitos back with us to Culiacan. There was a individual they call Federico, right? He's resting in peace now. Military killed him a while back, but we're supposed to take him out there. Federico Mañas, they used to call him, right? And we all knew what that meant. He was known for disappearing people, discipline. Even when families in Sinaloa had somebody they needed to be disciplined or to be blunt, to disappear, period, right? They would take him to him. So we were being ordered to take this vato, Carlitos, there. And that's where I had a lot of problems with, and I wouldn't stay quiet with it. I always mentioned it, like I told the homie that would end up becoming a Billy, see, from Waller Street, and tell him, man, I have no problem going in and doing what we have to do. But when it comes to our own, we should take care of our own. And what's the point taking him to Federico? You know, I don't see it right, having an individual from Sinaloa torture and do whatever he does to one of us when the homie was right. He didn't bend. He didn't say nothing when we went out to Camichin, right? To deal with the situation. It was just at that airport. But anyways, you know, like I said before, I might have always spoke my mind with someone I trusted. But at the end of the day, I was there for one thing, and that was to fall in line, right? So I knew what the rules and regulations apply at me doing, and that's just follow orders and shut your, you know. So we would end up going back, and we first got to a spot in Culiacan. They set it up, and they offered to pick up the vato and then take it. And we said, nah, we'll go ahead and do it. We got told to take them all to this spot, and that's what we're gonna do. I'll be honest, I was curious to see what this cat Federico looked like. One, two, what he did, because he was real famous for literally clearing everything, not one trace, right? And anyways, we would go, and for that one that has been always asking me what's the worst situation I've seen. Now I heard like the time with the pig or anything, right? But seen is this one right here. We got there, we hog tied the vato, and then we told him when you come out here to do what we're supposed to do, there's no hesitation. This is our tierra, our terre, but it's not our terre. If you guys get it, you know, and that hesitation brings doubt, and that reflects to what the señores are trying to do. Hey, but we went in. This individual, he was part of a family. I don't want to, the family is not important, but he had three of them things, hyenas. And when I seen them things, my skin just cold. I knew exactly what was gonna happen. And that individual and some cat that was there with them took the homie hog tied in, and the hyenas went to town. And it wasn't fear. It's just I was looking at it, but I swear to you, looking at it meant nothing. The sound of an animal doing this to a human being, but every bite literally bit not just skin, muscle, but it broke bone. And the vato, you can imagine where he's at, with screaming and everything until he stopped, you know. Because the funny thing about them animals, at least in this case, they went for a soft part, and others went for like his arms and stuff. And that's what we were hearing, their arms with bone and everything. But I don't want to get graphic, but they pulled the insides out, and well, we'll just leave it there. It was a terrible death. At the end of the day, we were all on a good one after that. We got out of there and we sat down. We sat down, and I'll be honest, Daryl called a few times. I just shined it on because I had in my mind, like, damn, this how much we're worth. This is going to be the ending to all of us. If something as small as protecting ourselves from getting caught and getting clipped. And even though we we hesitated on the time, it got done. So we shouldn't have been a discipline to that extent. But another factor went into play here. You see Daryl, Mike, and every other Billy here. They did these things to show they were as ruthless as the vatos holding power in Mexico, you know, and they had that power towards us. Basically, out in Mexico, it's the same thing. It's just the fear effect, and basically they do with camaradas what they do in Cali. in prison, in the barrios, everything, and that's put then push the will. Nobody could say anything. But anyways, you know, I hope this reaches the right ears. I don't want to say his name, but I recently found out a good is about to get out, and they've been putting it in his ear. Support, support. If I even say the Billy for or whatever, I could jeopardize him, and I'm not gonna do that. But the end light on this one is there ain't no end light. This is the worst thing I have ever seen, and over what? Over nothing. Because you gotta always keep that in mind. We have value when it's nothing but Southsiders, Sureños, Campoleros. Once an emero pop sign, we ain't worth nothing, as they prove time and time again. With this said, stay free, enjoy freedom, enjoy family, stay true to yourself, and loyal to your loved ones.